In a quiet village nestled between two rivers, there lived a farmer named Henry. Henry was known far and wide for his kindness, honesty, and the warm smile that rarely left his face. But there was one thing about him that puzzled the villagers. Every morning, without fail, Henry would walk to the riverbank, pick up a small pebble, and place it in the old leather bag he carried everywhere. First, no one asked about it. Henry's habits were his own, and he was well-liked. But as the months turned into years, the bag grew heavier, and Henry's steps became slower. His back bent slightly under its weight, yet he never seemed to consider leaving it behind. One bright summer day, as Henry stacked hay onto a cart in the village square, a young boy named Tom watched him struggle. Tom was known for his endless curiosity. Unable to hold back any longer, he asked, "Mr. Henry, why do you carry that heavy bag all the time? What's in it?" Henry paused, wiping the sweat from his brow, and gave Tom a tired but kind smile. "Ah, my boy, this bag is filled with my burdens." Tom tilted his head in confusion. "Burdens? Why do you carry them? Why not just leave them behind?" Henry chuckled softly. "That's the question, isn't it? Maybe tomorrow you can come to the river with me, and I'll show you." Tom's eyes lit up with excitement. "Really? I'd like that." The next morning, Tom joined Henry on his walk to the river. The sun was just rising, painting the water in shades of gold and pink. Henry knelt by the riverbank and carefully selected a small, smooth pebble. He held it up for Tom to see. "This pebble," Henry began, "represents a time I spoke harshly to my brother many years ago. I apologized, but the memory of that moment still weighs on me." Tom frowned. "But if you said you were sorry, why keep the pebble? Doesn't it make you sad to carry it?" Henry placed the pebble in his bag with a sigh. "Perhaps, but these pebbles remind me of my mistakes, my worries, and my regrets. They keep me from forgetting the lessons I've learned." Tom thought about this for a while. The next morning, he brought his own small bag and followed Henry to the river. When Henry picked up his usual pebble, Tom did the same. But instead of placing it in his bag, Tom threw the pebble into the water with a splash. "What are you doing?" Henry asked, startled. "I'm letting go," Tom replied. "This pebble reminds me of the time I lied to my sister. I already told her I was sorry, and she forgave me. Carrying it won't change the past, but letting it go might make the future lighter." Henry watched the ripples spread across the water. For the first time, he wondered if perhaps he'd been carrying more than he needed to. The following morning, as Henry picked up a pebble, he hesitated. Instead of placing it in his bag, he stared at it for a long moment. Then, with a deep breath, he threw it into the river. Tom grinned. "How does it feel?" "Lighter," Henry admitted. "Much lighter." Over the weeks that followed, Henry began tossing older pebbles from his bag into the river. Some were easier to let go of than others, but each time he threw one away, he felt a little freer. Word of Henry's new habit spread through the village. People began to talk about their own burdens, the regrets they carried, the mistakes they couldn't forget. Inspired by Henry, they started walking to the river, carrying pebbles to represent their troubles. One by one, they let them go. An old friend of Henry's, a merchant named Edward, stopped him in the market one day. "I hear you've been letting go of your pebbles, Henry. What changed?" Henry smiled, his posture straighter now that the bag no longer weighed him down. "I realized that while it's important to remember our mistakes, it's even more important to learn from them and move on. The weight of one pebble isn't much, but when you carry too many, it can break your spirit." Edward nodded thoughtfully. "Perhaps I'll take a walk to the river myself." And so, the river became a place not just for water but for healing. The villagers learned to carry only what was necessary and to let the rest flow away with the current. The rivers continued their endless journey to the sea, carrying with them the burdens of a village that had learned to live lighter and freer.